The Tibetan national flag is emblazoned with the valiant stance of a pair of fearless snow lions. The snow lions symbolize the complete victory over all by the combined spiritual and secular Tibetan government. At the head of the integrated government in Lhasa was His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the spiritual and temporal leader of the Tibetan people. Buddhists all over the world revere the Dalai Lama as the reincarnation of Chandrasek, the Buddha of compassion. The present Dalai Lama, His Holiness Tenzin Gyatso, is the 14th reincarnation, and in 1950, at 15 years of age, he was given full temporal leadership. In that year, Communist China invaded Tibet and enforced the historical claim that Tibet was part of the motherland. For nearly 10 years, the Dalai Lama tried to work out an agreement for peaceful coexistence between Tibet and China. But as the Chinese military presence escalated, the response from Peking was emphatic. Tibet is part of China. Chinese policies reflected and enforced this idea as Tibetan schoolchildren were re-educated in the true history of China and the legend of Tibet. As masses of Han Chinese were relocated to Tibet, Tibetans became marginal in their own land. Tibetans were jailed, tortured, and executed in the Chinese effort to liberate Tibet. Places of worship throughout the country were destroyed. The teaching of Buddhist religion was banned as the Chinese tried to reduce Tibetan Buddhism to a simple ritualistic blind faith. In 1960, the International Commission of Jurists released a report on Tibet, which accused China of the most severe crime which can be committed against humanity, genocide. It was under these embittered circumstances of 1959 that His Holiness the Dalai Lama fled to Tibet to seek asylum in India. At that time, 90,000 Tibetans crossed the dangerously high mountain Himalayan passes to seek refuge in the countries of Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim, and India. After having established the Tibetan administration in exile at Dharamsala, the Dalai Lama continued to seek protection for his people from human rights violations in Tibet. The Dalai Lama also placed high priority on resettlement plans which would help to preserve Tibetan tradition and culture for the Tibetans in exile.
Now, first of all, I wanted to express my deep appreciation for those people who are showing concern about our fate. Now I explain this something.
Our Tibetan society has undergone great changes, especially after some of us had to flee our country. As refugees, we have to look to our livelihood needs, while at the same time take the responsibility of doing something for the cause of Tibet. We have much to do in terms of resettlement of our people, providing them with the means of livelihood, education, and health services. As much as possible, we have made schemes for our people to stay together in major settlements throughout India and Nepal. On one hand, this has enabled them to come to the aid of each other, while on the other, it has helped us to preserve our unique character and identity. This preservation in exile is at least partly due to our great emphasis on education, which, in addition to providing modern knowledge, also includes the teachings of our own good traditions.
The Swiss Association for Technical Assistance, or SATA, played a pioneering role in the rehabilitation of refugee Tibetans by creating 13 refugee camps throughout Nepal. SATA helped to establish production and marketing facilities for the unique Tibetan handicrafts and carpets. These handicraft centers still provide employment and income to the refugees, but more importantly, they help Tibetans regain their dignity through productive work. In 1972, SATA phased out their direct involvement in the settlements and helped to found the Snowline Foundation, an umbrella organization designed to procure funds and administer projects within the settlement.
Snowline Foundation was formally constituted in 1972, and I became as the assistant secretary in 1973. The Snowline Foundation looks after cultural preservation, the education, health, and social welfare of all the Tibetan settlements in Nepal. One of the greatest SLF role is in the education, administering settlement schools. Though with very limited resources and high expectation, the outcome in the field of primary and middle level education has been commendable. We stress the importance of teaching Tibetan language and religion. This seems to be one of the most effective means of keeping the Tibetan culture alive.
Tibetan history, culture, and religion are taught to Tibetan youth in Nepal, although they are no longer taught to children in Tibet. Teachers promote good hygiene among their students and thereby contribute to raising the health standards of the settlements. When the settlements were started in the early 1960s, there were rampant health problems due to poor sanitation and overcrowding. Today, the Snowline Foundation is struggling to provide primary health care to the Tibetan refugees in Nepal. Recently, the Tibetan Department of Health and Dharamsala allotted funds for 3 clinics in the Kathamandu Valley.
And in trying to identify the main health problems, we find that tuberculosis is the main health problem. The percentage of TB cases among our people are higher than the local police people. And because of this, and in spite of the fact that TB control programs means a lot of funding needed, we have been incorporating the TB control program as one of our major tasks in caring for the health problems of the Tibetan refugees. The Department of Health has to raise all the necessary funds to run all the programs in the various settlements. And once these things are available to us, we transfer them to the Snowline Foundation in Kathmandu. And their task is, once they get these funds and medical supplies, they make sure that they are duly utilized in the 3 health centers that are based in Kathmandu Valley. And then we get regular feedback reports and regular statements of accounts to indicate how the progress is being made and how the money is managed and how the drug supplies are met in the different settlements.
Healthcare centers in Kathmandu are a significant step forward because they provide health services in the Tibetan language, thereby greatly increasing the accessibility to health care.
And now, since a year back, the Snowline Foundation has stepped in to provide a definite health care program directed towards the Tibetan communities living in the Kathmandu Valley. Our main target will be to improve the health conditions and sanitation of the people by trying to carry out more health educational activities in the communities, the school. I think these are the major aims of the Snowline Foundation health program.
To begin to fulfill these goals, the Snowline Foundation has put strong emphasis on the training of community health workers. Although the health worker provides curative services and performs simple lab tests, their primary role is to encourage preventative medicine by educating the community about varying causes of ill health. By utilizing this type of community outreach, the quality of healthcare in the settlements has improved greatly over the past 20 years. And although there is still much to be done, the health standard in exile far outshines the mental and physical abuses which Tibetans suffer within Tibet. Refugee life is particularly difficult for the old and infirm. It is the nature of refugee life that individuals are often separated from their families, and then, as they grow old, they find themselves with no means of support. The Snowline Foundation has a responsibility to help this older generation of Tibetans and has organized programs to provide monthly allowances for those who have no resources. However, within this system, the number of recipients is small relative to the number in need of assistance. To increase the number of beneficiaries, the foundation plans to build and run old age homes.
This has become now very essential in the sense that many of people, old and infirm people, invalid people in the settlement, do not have anyone who would look after them. And it has become now a sector where we should really pay attention so that we could take care of these people. And it is not only limited to the number of people that we already have in hand. We can already foresee that there will be more and more of them in the years to come.
The contribution which the Snowline Foundation has made to improving the quality of life in the Tibetan settlements is substantial, but the need for improvement is still very visible. In the area of health, tuberculosis remains as an acute public health problem, and primary health care has yet to be introduced to several of the more remote settlements. The training of community health workers and the education of the communities will be integral in reversing these situations. The education of Tibetan youth is critical. Through a combined education system, second-generation Tibetans are able to gain modern knowledge, while at the same time they are taught their native language, history, and religion. This is the best way to help ensure the survival of Tibetan culture. The older generation of Tibetan refugees who fled Tibet in hopes of preserving their culture and ancient religion now lack the resources to maintain adequate housing and nutrition. Allowances are one way to provide immediate assistance, but the need to implement a long-term plan for welfare of the elderly is becoming essential. The Snowline Foundation has played an active role in the resettlement of the Tibetan refugees in Nepal. While administering a wide variety of programs, the Foundation ensures that the overall rehabilitation process is considerate and complementary to Tibetan values. This integrated system provides necessary material resources, while at the same time encourages the preservation of Tibetan culture in exile.